Good evening. I have 7 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you. Mr. Greg David,
Present.
Mr. Tyler Dean,
Here.
Ms. Emily Hamburg,
Here.
Mr. Brandon McIntosh,
Present.
Mr. Mike Proctor,
Present.
and you have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. This evening, we have Dr. Robert Lindstad from Sunrise Christian Academy to lead us in prayer.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to all of you.
Thank you.
I want to read just a couple verses from Luke chapter 2, verse 9. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them, and they were sore afraid. The angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which will be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight. And we thank you for this special time of the year that we can celebrate your son coming to earth as a babe, going to the cross to die for our sins. And Father, we pray that we might be among those that can bring peace. We pray for peace in the Middle East. We pray for peace in Russia and Ukraine. We pray for peace in the villages in Africa that have seen so much martyrdom, and even in Burma where the government is so cruel. Father, we pray that we will be a special blessing to those around us, because maybe we have students or neighbors or people that live in our community that are also seeking peace from whatever they face. Father, we pray tonight for a special blessing to our first responders, for our firemen, our policemen, our leaders. Father, we pray that during this time of the year, we might be very sensitive to those that have any kind of financial need or physical need. We pray, Lord, that we might be among those who could spread goodwill and love and peace and grace. Father, most of all, we thank you for the gift of Jesus Christ, our Savior, who was born at Christmas time. We celebrate that with gusto. We thank you for the freedom to do so. We pray and ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance to the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on the agenda is to determine if we have any agenda additions. I don't really have any myself, but I just want to give everybody a heads up that we will move to executive session after item, I'll tell you here in a second. Item 7B. So, and that will be a long executive session. So just kind of a heads up for everybody that that's what we're going to be doing. But that's not an addition. It's just a change in the order. Okay.
Mayor Benaj, I might mention, I updated the agenda earlier today with a change order for Bel Aire Lakes. That's the last agenda item on your current agenda.
Okay.
Just want to
Yes.
give you a heads up.
Thank you. That was a late update. So yes, if you didn't get it, sorry. It's just, but yeah, thank you for the reminder. So any other agenda issues to add? If there are none, we'll go on to consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, Mr.
we've got a large number of people here. Maybe it'll come up when we do the citizen forum, but I was wondering if the last item might be moved up. We can talk about it when we do the citizen forum. If it seemed like there's
Well, it's agenda item. So what are you suggesting?
that maybe it be moved up in the agenda so that people don't have to wait until after the executive session.
You talking about item F or item E? Or which item are you talking about in particular?
The bike path item.
Oh, that was a discussion. That's not an agenda item. It's a discussion and a future issues discussion. We won't make any decision about that tonight. It's just, we could move it up, but there's no reason we couldn't do that if you so desire.
I just hate to keep everyone waiting
Well, yeah.
to hear that discussion.
That'll be
after.
late.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have any objection to that if you want to move that up to So let's do this. We're going to have citizens' concerns, and let's move it up to after the citizens' concerns. Okay? How'd that be? Okay. Make a note here. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Come on, computer. Okay, so we'll move on to consent agenda. So this contains the minutes of the December 2nd City Council meeting, as well as one appointment and two requests for cereal malt beverage license renewals. Kent Kohler, Kaler, as he cautioned me on how to pronounce his name, is Kaler, has volunteered to serve on the steering committee for the Sedgwick County Fire District 1. Bel Aire gets one member to represent us on that steering committee, and he will replace Jesse Miller, who has asked to step down. And then we also have two applications for renewal of cereal malt beverage licenses, and they were received by the city. Both applications have received the required stamps from the Kansas Department of Revenue and Alcoholic Beverage Control and have met all city requirements for renewal. So staff recommends approval of both licenses.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David,
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda as listed and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
motion by Mr. David, a second by Mr. Dean. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 7, so this is appropriations ordinance, which encompasses November expenses from November 6th through December 9th, and one payroll cycle. Expenditures amount to just over $125,000, $2,125,000. Of the reported expenses, just $1 million and just under $1,110,000 are infrastructure costs for new developments, and these costs are paid through special assessments.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean,
I move we approve appropriation ordinance number 25-23.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Dean, a second by Mr. McIntosh. Any discussion? There is none. I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. City requested appearances we have done this evening. So we now move on to a public hearing. So on December 2nd, the City Council approved a notice of public hearing for an amendment to the 2025 budget and set the date to hold this hearing as today per state statute. At this time, anyone who may speak about the proposed budget amendment, and when anyone has a chance to speak, the public hearing may be closed with a motion and vote of the council. So comments will be limited to 3 minutes. But if there are any citizens that would like to come to the podium and speak about this budget amendment, you're certainly welcome to do that at this time. We will ask you to identify your name and address, and we will give you 3 minutes to speak. If no one wishes to speak, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David,
a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
a motion by Mr. David, a second by Mr. Dean. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. The next item is citizen concerns. I have 3 citizens who have requested to speak to City Council. So just to go over the rules once, and everybody please help us with this. Please come to the podium, speak in the microphone, because these are recorded, and also people that are remote can't hear if you don't speak in the microphone. And please state your name, your address, and we'll give you 3 minutes to speak. So the first one is Mr. Gary O'Neill.
My name is Gary O'Neill. I live at 4967 North Hillcrest here in Bel Aire. I'd like to thank the mayor and the governing body for giving me an opportunity to speak this evening. I'd like to speak briefly about the bicycle and pedestrian trail concept. I think you'll be discussing some of that a little later. For From the maps that I've seen, they aren't real clear to me exactly on which side of the hedgerow along what was to be 49th Street right away, and the pipeline that runs from Woodlawn over to Oliver, east and west there, exactly where it's going to be. I'm probably one of the largest landowners there. I have 2 acres. I have 800 feet of right of way that runs along the hedgerow on the north side of what was to be 49th Street. I'm on the south side. And I'm a little concerned exactly from what I've seen so far, exactly where is this going to be from the maps I've looked at. And the other concern I have is that is a dead end street there at Hillcrest. I don't know if that will remain a dead end or if the bike path is going to jog over and go down the old 49th Street right of way, or if it's going to stay on the pipeline side, on the north side of the right of way, which there's very little room there. One of the concerns I know some of the neighbors in Iron Gate will have is, I think by their covenants, they cannot put in privacy fences. And directly across the road from right away from me, there is a pool that was put in a couple of years ago. It's probably within 30 feet or so of where the proposed bike path trail could be. And with no privacy fence, I'm not sure they'd be very pleased with that either. I would be concerned about access to my shop buildings that I have on the 2 acres that I've got, how I would have access to those. And I think it would be prudent for the city. I know under WAMPO, they're trying to make a decision on this move rather quickly, but I think it would behoove the city to have maybe a meeting with the stakeholders here at City Hall with some maps and maybe some engineers, so some of the stakeholders could get their questions answered that they may have and bring up to the council. And that's all I have.
Okay, well, thank you. I think that's a good suggestion because designs have not been done on this. Okay, so nobody can answer those questions, and getting citizen input would be valuable to that if we go that route. Okay, so thank you. Next is Miss Kelly Misra. I should have that.
Kelly Miza, 5816 East 49th Street North. My concern is, again, the bike path. I am one of the homes that backs up to the pipeline and the hedgerow. So my concern is losing that privacy and beauty that I specifically moved to that house for. And I might not be the only one for that. So my concerns would be just to be able to get more information, because I guess I'm late to the game since this has been since 2019. But my concern would be that not enough residents know about it, especially the ones that are affected by it, because I've talked to my neighbors. I have questions, but I don't know if I'm allowed to ask them, if I just sit and listen, or if I just catch you at church.
Well, you're certainly welcome to ask questions, but in these meetings, we typically don't have a dialogue. That's more appropriate for a workshop, which we do have.
So, yeah, hopefully we'd have a workshop before any decisions are made. Because I know people would want to say, and but for a posting by Mike, I would not know about this at all. And I'm not the only one. So I looked on the city government page. I didn't see it. I looked in my HOA, didn't see it. I don't know if it was in the Bel Aire Breeze. My bad for not reading it, but I will pay attention from now on.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Next, we have Miss Rebecca Gallo.
It's Rebecca Gallo.
Gallo, thank you.
It's 5904 East 49th Court North. We're there, right there on Highland. So thank you guys for letting me speak this evening. I also want to speak to you about the bike path. We purchased our home in October of 2011, and we've never been told anything about this bike path. and neither have our neighbors. So, I think that some of my questions have already been answered in the sense that, or that you guys have already addressed. I mean, that we would like to be able to have a place to ask the questions, get more information. But I can tell you that we don't want to lose our backyard for a bike path, when it seems like there are other ways to get to the rec center. It seems like that's a lot of money to go to a project when we haven't even finished Woodlawn. Maybe there's other ways that we could spend that money. So I think that pretty much covers it.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other citizens that would like to speak? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 14, discussion and future issues, which is the Phase 1 bike and pedestrian trail concept that Mr. David asked that we bring up at this time. So I think you had
Sure.
maybe
And,
something you
and
wanted to talk
again,
about.
just to
in this?
reset everybody's memory, the first step to any project is hiring an engineering firm to actually engineer it. So before staff went out to bring a bid before you guys to start the process. So the process hasn't even started yet. We wanted to discuss some of the challenges that revolve around building a bike pedestrian sidewalk on an easement. And that's where I invited PEC. We had a pretty long discussion about it. And what I wanted to bring back, at least tonight, is at least the cost estimates, which is attached in the packet 224, page 224 of the packet. And that was kind of one of the questions we had resulting out of the workshop, was that that the cost was not accurate. It was not presented at that because we were talking about more of the concept plan of the issue. So really, that's kind of what I wanted to at least get in front of you guys to discuss. As you know, if this isn't even scheduled till 2027, if we could move forward with it, it's just with the WAMPO process and getting basically 80% of construction costs for free, you have to start this early. So wanted to start the conversation. It sounds like it worked. It sounds like we got a conversation, and that's always good to have. So I'll leave it up to you guys to discuss, and we'll continue to evaluate this project.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Dean.
Thanks, Ted, for framing that for us. And thanks for the citizens that came and have started that dialogue. So I'm going to read something real quick. So last Wednesday after our workshop, I reflected on our discussion that we had during the workshop on the bike ped plan and the potential to move that project forward into design for phase 1 of the path with the WAMPO grant funds that it sounds like the city has been awarded. I sent an email to our city manager with a list of questions as well as a suggestion. So my questions were mainly around, do we actually have the grant? What's the actual amount? And then my suggestions revolved a lot of what other people touched on tonight. So I'm glad to hear and appreciate the engagement from citizens. Was this is a master plan. It was developed in 2019. A lot has changed since then, and a lot will change in our city over the next 5 and 10 years. So we have these master plans. We refresh them every so often. Most of us have maybe peeked at it, but maybe not all of us. Citizens may have not even heard of it. So my suggestion to the city manager was that we start some public engagement on this project as a part of a pre-engineering activity, not as an engineering activity, because I think it will help inform decisions that will be made later, whether the path goes there, whether it stays, what sort of adjustments to routing might occur, whether certain parts of the neighborhood want direct connection or not, different things. Also, I think Gary brought up really well was which side of the hedgerow is it going to be on? I know a lot of people would be really interested in probably keeping the hedgerow, right, as a buffer, which a lot of zoning code requires buffers when we're putting in a new some sort of a new commercial property next to residential. So just along those same lines, I think it would be a very good opportunity to engage community. The example I thought of was Eagle Lake Park. We did that. I know it seemed very messy, and it took probably longer than we would like to make the decision on such a simple thing, whether we keep or move a sand volleyball court. But I think in the whole process played out the way it should. It was messy, which it's intended to be, and we made some some pivots on where we put it, and I think that's all healthy. At the end of the day, we may build this project, we might not, or it might be something that's the project, but it's adjusted. So we don't know that answer today. We're not going to make that decision today. But I think our community showed to be very engaged when we asked them the question through a poll. I think this will take another step, right? I think it might initially start with, hey, what do you think about this? And just get some initial feedback through a poll. But I think it also needs and deserves a public open house of some style, probably here, as was suggested by Gary. I appreciate you being here tonight, Gary. I visit with Gary and actually visit with another person I know that lives in your guys' neighborhood that was generally in favor of it, but still had a lot of questions about it, right? About how we would go about doing it. So I just wanted to share that. I think it's important that we respect that there was a plan. While some people may not have known about it, that we do some due diligence on it. I know there's other people in our community, both residents in that neighborhood that deserve to have input, residents throughout our community that believe in that vision. There's some walk bike groups in our community that I think would like to weigh in on that too. And at the end of the day, with the goal of trying to make the plan better, because we're not going to move forward with a plan that we can't refine and we can't make better for our community. So I just figured I'd start that out with that. I think that's a solid suggestion, but I'd love to hear what the rest of council has to think on that topic too. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is anybody else?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David?
I also appreciate citizen input. That's where we need to go with this. I'm wondering if we could have that workshop before we spend the money on the engineering, actually, but we need some kind of data to bring to that workshop. So I don't even know about spending the 76,000 for the preliminary engineering if all the people affected are really not for it. We also talked about the other piece of data I'd like at that workshop is whether we can move that WAMPO funding, which we were awarded. That's good news. Can we move that to 45th Street? So that's all I had. Thanks.
Yeah, I just a word of caution. I'm not sure it's accurate to say it's awarded. It's only awarded once you actually do the project. So it can be repurposed, but we may not be able to repurpose it. It may be just repurposed throughout the Wichita region. Okay. Just a word of caution on that. So,
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
can you
Mr.
expand on that a little bit so that public understands like how many years and the process it took to put these? I think Ted could probably enlighten folks. The WAMPO stuff doesn't happen overnight.
No,
I know
it doesn't.
you've served on the
Yeah.
board. I know
I-
Ann's been a part of project selection. Ted's been engaged. So getting that money isn't free, right? It takes a
No.
lot of effort to even get to the point of being selected.
So very briefly, I am on the WAMPO board. So I represent Bel Aire there, and Ann Stevens is our alternate if I can't make it to their meetings, which I usually make. But the process is when you have a project, you make a proposal for a project and you say, okay, this is what the project is. This is about what we think it will cost. And then they have a selection committee that goes through all those projects and says, okay, these are the projects we're going to accept. Now I think, proposed like 7 or 8 or 10 projects, didn't we, in this last round? And these were the ones that came out of that proposal. And we had Rock Road on there. We had the rest of the next section of Woodlawn on there. We had a lot of things. I think the next section of 45th was on there. We had a lot of things on there, but this is what came out of it, the phase 1, 2, and 3 of this bike path. So those went to what's called the MTP. Now, don't ask me what that stands for because I don't remember that it's an acronym for something, but MTP doesn't say it's funded. It just says it's in the pipeline. We're looking at it, and we have a target date that we think we might put it into the pipeline. And then once it gets through that, it goes to what's called a TIP, which is a TIP. And that's when some action needs to happen from the city, because now this is a project that they're seriously saying, yeah, if you can make it happen, we're going to help you with it. Okay. And that's where this project is right now. This phase one only, not phase two, not phase three. Only phase one is in the TIP. The other two are in the MTP still, because they're years out. And they project out to 2050. So they're long range plans, and they review those every few years. This particular one right now is in the MTP, and I'm just looking at the WAMPO numbers, and they're saying the estimated total cost is 1.247963. So almost $1.25 million. That's estimated total cost. If they would fund that at 80%, they would pay 80% of that. So about $1 million of that, close to $1 million of that. So that's where this project is right now, just the phase one, not 2 and 3. And so I think at the workshop we talked about, well, maybe we should talk with WAMPO about maybe changing the scope of this project a little bit. And I don't know if we've had any of that discussion with Chad Perez or anybody else at WAMPO. Do you know, Ted, if anybody's had that discussion with Chad or anybody at WAMPO?
Not yet. I think Kristen
Okay.
might have reached out, but I don't have an answer yet.
Okay. Well, and I can do that if need be, but that's kind of where this is right now. So I think probably, just in my estimation, I think probably what would be wisest to do is just have this public engagement meeting, just to see what the interest is of this, because there are people on both sides of this. I know that, and what's the real answer here? I don't have that. Okay, because this is a study done back in 2019. A lot of citizens were involved in it. Maybe not all the citizens were involved in it, but that's the luck of the draw. We try to advertise this stuff and let it be known, but not everybody can make it for one reason or another. So anyway, but that's where I think we are on this. But anybody else have other things they would like to say about it? Certainly.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Hamburg.
Okay, I hope you can hear me okay. I appreciate the residents that came tonight. One of the frustrating things about government is how slow things move. This plan is from 2019, and I believe you're the only governing body member that was around at that point. So I'm definitely, even for my own sake, in favor of having kind of a rundown of how we got this plan and maybe what's changed or how the current governing body feels about it currently. A lot of good points have already been made. The only thing I'm going to mention, and I brought this up in August or September regarding our comprehensive plan with new governing body members. And it's been 3.5 years since our last retreat. It might be worth kind of talking about the bike ped plan, the park and rec plan from a few years ago, and then the comprehensive plan that was passed 2 weeks ago, and kind of review all of that. Not everybody looks at hundreds of pages in our packets, and kind of get a feel for where the current city council kind of feels about everything. And I know Brian with the rec center had mentioned some interesting comments when we were discussing replacing the equipment at or at the rec center, that he liked some things about the park plan, but not others. So I'd like to get his thoughts too, and any residents as well. So that would be my suggestion. I don't know. We may need to move quicker on the bike ped plan, but just more broadly, we kind of talk about these things in a silo, and it might be worth having a bigger discussion, maybe even in a retreat style. But thank you again to the residents. If you go back and watch the workshop last week, there were a number of concerns, and there are a number of pieces of information we still need even for phase one to make a good decision. So thank you, Mayor.
All right. Thank you. Any other concerns? Mr. Proctor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think one of my biggest concerns, aside from, several stakeholders here tonight, and not one of my neighbors that would have been impacted by phase 3 knew about it either. So I do think we've got to have the public engagement. Also, I guess I'm a little bit curious about on the cost of $250,000, because I think only 150,000 was right-of-way acquisition. I think it's going to be higher than that. But so the question is, because the city bears the rest of it, whatever it happens to be.
Right.
Right. So our $250,000 that we're thinking we're going to kick into this could turn into quite a bit more.
Yes.
I guess my only other question is how does it make it to TIF when very few of the people that actually be impacted directly by it knew about it? As far as the plan formulation, and maybe it's just that long of a pipeline. So I'm curious about
I
that.
think it more is a function of how long it's in the pipeline. I don't know. Ann, would you have anything to add to that? She's been involved in WAMPO longer than I have, but so sometimes she has some insights. Lots
Sure.
of times she has
So
them.
you've done a very good job kind of describing the process. I will add for the WAMPO process, WAMPO has different buckets of money, so to speak. And each project over that 2 to 3 year planning process for the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program, it's got a set cap as far as how much we've got. So the planning or the project selection committee that I'm on, we designate certain different projects. So this project was put into the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, the MTP, 4 or 5 years ago. What we did as a city is we picked up all the projects that we thought might get funded or that we would like to do as kind of a wish list. We had, like the mayor said, we had probably 9 to 10 different projects. Some were big, and we tried to get some smaller ones in there, like the bike path, so we could get some more funding. Those were all put in. The selection committee did their job and selected projects throughout the WAMPO region, and this bike path was the one that did get funded. That being said, if it is the will of the council, we don't necessarily have to accept it, and that money can go to something else. We do need to have more discussion with WAMPO. I don't think that money can get put on the 45th Street project, but that's something that we need to check. I just don't want to get anybody's hopes up. But as far as how did it get on, that's kind of how it did. I will say, after hearing these discussions, that I don't think enough background research was done to begin with. I, for one, was not aware of all of the property going to the edge of the pipeline easement. It was my understanding that the pipeline easement was just there, and that I obviously didn't do enough of my own research back at that point in time when this was put forward, or I probably would not have recommended it, knowing the undoubted irritation and whatever the word I'm looking for of property owners kind of not wanting to have that in their backyard, which I don't know that I would myself. So I do understand that. As far as the bike path, the bicycle and pedestrian master plan goes, it was put together in 2019. We did have, I think it was PEC that helped us with that. We had multiple public engagement sessions, several here at the city hall. We had some at the Easter egg hunt and the fall festival. And I think we had some pop-ups at Marco's Pizza when that was still around. And so that was a long time. This is kind of what the community said. You put dots on the board. Where would you like to connect? Where would you like to go? And this was one of those paths. So kind of in references to the various thoughts, a public engagement session is probably needed. Just having more, just as the community changes and as we know better, we do better. Just having that additional engagement. And hey, is there any other bike paths or paths that you would like to see? Are there any places that you'd like to have connection? Having both larger projects and smaller projects is what we need. Most of the projects that came out of those engagement sessions, I want a bike path along 45th that goes from here to here. That's great, but we can't really do the bike path until we get the street done and do the two together. So it's having an understanding of how the process works, how the funding and the construction process works in advance of going into some of those is very helpful. So hopefully that's kind of answered some of your questions.
Yeah, and I guess maybe to flip that around, because you guys put in several projects and you don't have control over which ones are funded or accepted or get the green light. So to go engaging everybody on every possible project is just an impossible expectation, kind of is maybe where we're starting here.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
When we get to a certain
And
step.
it's- especially at this initial funding phase, because we don't even know if it's going to go forward or not.
Right.
Like I said, we'd put in all three phases of the bike path. We don't know. We didn't know at the time if 1, 2, or 3 would get funded, and we don't want to unnecessarily frustrate or concern citizens if we don't have to.
Mhm.
And so that's, it's like the engagement needs to happen in that initial planning process. And then when we come to the city council and saying, hey, these are the projects that we're planning on putting into the tip, do you have any thoughts? That's another point where public engagement can and probably should happen. That way, if there is some big opposition to a particular project, then we know about it at that time.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Dean.
One other thing I'd like to add, so from a personal perspective, I've lived in Bel Aire since 2010. I do remember some of those sessions vaguely, right? But it's been a while. I used to live in that neighborhood by the rec. But I think there's several things that you said that I latch onto. We're at a stage where it makes a lot of sense, right? Before we invest significant amount of money in design to have more in community. We're to that step. This is just a part of the process. And you're always going to have projects like this where we need right away. And there's going to be some people that don't like the idea, and there's going to be some people that do. And I think the key is making sure that we do the engagement, we listen, and we take that feedback into consideration as a part of the decision. But then also, if we move forward, that we actually listen and incorporate some of those things that we hear, even if it were to go forward. I said earlier, just reiterate, I think social media polling would be a good idea just off the jump, just to get some feedback going. I think the town hall idea is without question, I think it would be a really good exercise, even if we decided to not go forward with this project. And I think engaging groups like the bike or the walk group, Kara Moment, who did a presentation last year, told us about her project, and her project as a citizen through the AARP walking initiative last year or 2 years ago was to review the bike ped plan. And so she did that, and she engaged community, and she has a list of folks that came to her walk groups. And so there has been, although it's in smaller groups, there has been some effort to move this forward or move projects like it forward, right? This one might not be the one, but there's been some movement in the community from a grassroots effort to see these types of investments happen. And the pipeline easement, I actually went and looked at it myself, and there is a pipeline there. It's just a matter of how is it recorded with the Register of Deeds. If it's a right-of-way that's in the plat, or if it's a right-of-way like before platting or during platting, or if it was a part of the owner, the lot. And so it can be recorded either way. But I guess what I would say is that is a part of an engineering process, but I think a preliminary process needs to occur before we even get there, to get community engagement, get community feedback. Then we can make a decision. All right, do we go to the next step or not? And I think this is all just the step we're in. It's messy, but this is sort of just a part of the process. I hope citizens don't think that plan was just hidden. It's actually on the website. It just hasn't been shared and pushed out there because there wasn't a project that we actually felt was imminent. But now there is one. There is one that has a possibility. We can take feedback. One thing I noticed was the phasing. There's different phasing, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. It's switched a few times which section's which. And part of it is it's sort of which order do you build it in, and that might even be a piece of the feedback is, hey, phase 1's great, but we think doing phase 2 first connects more stuff. And I just want to make one final comment. This is not about connecting the rec. This is about connecting a lot of public spaces. This is about connectivity. It's about recreation. There's more to it than just connecting the rec. We're connecting a alley park. We're connecting our arterial street. So I hope citizens can kind of take a step back too and try to engage in the plan and make it better. I get that some people might not like it at all, but I hope if you're in the middle ground, you'll ask good questions. You'll follow up on those with staff or at the community event with our consultant, and give it a chance, because there are folks that are invested in it that are going to be at that meeting. They're on the opposite side. So I think it's healthy. I just want everybody to understand that this isn't really new. It's just part of the process of building projects. We're just in that stage with planning. So, but I really appreciate everybody's comments too. And thanks, Ann, for filling us in on the background.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Hamburg.
I just wanted to make one other comment. I appreciate that background and just kind of just because the way the funding process is, sometimes that funding tail wags the whole dog, and then we have to make sure that it actually makes sense for our city, or we don't get caught in this inflationary environment, sort of in runaway cost. And we've experienced some of that on the 53rd Street path. My question for Ted and Ann is, because I don't want to drag our feet, and we've got, the potential for over $600,000 of funding here. What is the deadline? Because after we leave here tonight, we don't have our next meeting for 3 weeks. What is sort of the timeline to make a decision on this phase one to not potentially lose that funding from WAMPO?
Think, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, Ann, but I think we have to have an engineering plan in KDOT's hands by the end of fiscal year 2026, and that is federal fiscal year 2026. Is that correct?
That sounds about right. In order for this project to be constructed in the federal fiscal year of 27, which runs from October to September.
2026 to October, September 2027.
Yes.
Right. Yes.
Then we have about an 18-month process, which is kind of talking from that bid letting date to when KDOT does all of their reviews. So when we let the project for bids with contractors, we've got 18 months prior to that we have to get everything done. And so if we're going to be engaging the public, that's going to have to be done really fairly early in the kind of February, March, April timeframe of 26. And that way, if the city chooses to not go forward with the project, WAMPO would like to know as soon as possible so they can reallocate that money.
Right. So I would favor January to do that if we can. So
Yeah, what I'm hearing is January open house.
Maybe late
The other,
January, so we
the
can
one
advertise.
question of direction I'd like to have, because we kind of had two different types of open houses. Now there's one that just explains the project and gets feedback. That's probably something Ann, Nick, and I can run. If you want something with a board that says, what other ideas would you like to look at? That's when we go into kind of a master plan, and that maybe takes a facilitator. And that's kind of where, if you want me to allocate more funds to this project, it would be the facilitation of that open house versus just the staff.
So the question that I've got in my mind is if we redefine this project, how much of a lift is that through the team that you're on that considers projects? Is that a big deal for them? Because I know that there are changes in projects, but if we make a significant change in the scope of the project, that may be a game changer for them. I don't know. And you're on that committee, so you tell us.
I can't say that I have had experience with a significant scope change in the
Okay.
project. It has always been you add or subtract, but the geographic area has been largely the same. Sometimes a little bit got added because it made sense if there was a quarter of a mile of road that connected into another improved area, then you add that on. But I haven't had a fairly significant scope change. So I'm not sure how that would operate.
Okay.
I can certainly see about getting a meeting set up with Chad Parasa here fairly soon, with Kristen Zimmerman with PEC, who's been helping us through this process. And then we can talk about all these questions, and maybe Ted and Mayor yourself might also want to attend those, just to make sure that we've got all those questions answered
And
Yeah.
as we move forward.
That's sounds like it's going to take more time.
And that's kind of what I'm hearing, especially as we're going through this public engagement process. Ted obviously is thinking the end of February or the end of January, but I'm kind of thinking more into February, so we make sure that we get the process and we get the fruitful information that we want, and that does take a little bit of planning. But,
And
that's something that we
If I
can
might
definitely
add
talk
something,
to.
part of what we talked about at the workshop is KDOT won't let the project unless we have all right of way under control.
Right.
So we're going to need public engagement to make the homeowners
Right.
understand, because this project's not going forward unless that happens. So
Right.
I think this is actually part of the construction process, part of all the processes is the
Right.
public engagement, because we're
So-
going to need it.
One other comment I want to make that's sort of, like I said earlier, order of it might be a factor, right? Phase one, there is not a lot of right-of-way acquisition, but there's some. Phase two, I think, is what it was originally labeled, which is the section between Rock and Webb, or Rock and Skyview.
Woodlawn and Rock, I think.
It's a significant amount of right-of-way. And then the section between that, depending on how we want to build it, in my mind, I actually looked at, I sent a sketch to city manager just in case we wanted to discuss options. And one of the options I had in my mind was the pipeline easement from Woodlawn to the mid-mile line, which is basically the Evergy easement that runs north and south. It's literally just all pipeline easement. And then Catholic Care is to the south. And one of the suggestions I made was, even if we just built or suggested an engaged community on this section, which might not even be a WAMPO job, it might actually end up being a city at large job, but maybe it makes it worth it to go after the WAMPO dollars to connect the two, to just do it all at the same time, but separate projects probably. And my suggestion was rooted in, how do we make this make sense, make a bigger bang for the buck, more community gets impacted in a positive way, connects more parks, connects City Hall, connects the trail system to Central Park, the pool, just kind of thinking bigger. And how do we make it have a big impact if we're going to go after a $700,000 grant? And it's $1 million project. If it's $1.5 million, does it get us more usable path system connecting more? And maybe it makes it more worth it. But this is an idea I had, but the community can bring those kinds of ideas too, right? And so we need to hear from community. But those are just some thoughts that were rattling around in my head, is how do you build it? What order do you build? All those questions deserve to be answered, because it feels like there might be a better way to do it. And part of the path, you might end up rerouting it to avoid some of the things we're talking about, whether you need right-of-way acquisition, or, hey, a development gets built here by City Hall. Maybe it makes more sense that routes up to a future development. These are just some things that we have to think about from a holistic standpoint, and not get too rooted in, you have to look at master plan, then you have to engage community, then you got to make a decision. But all those things can change constantly. So I think it's good. I think it's healthy. I think this is just a step. I would suggest the open house is probably in February, just to allow you to engage WAMPO, get your ducks in a row. Maybe early to mid-February would give you enough time to prepare for some sort of an open house, whether that's with a consultant or not. Do you feel comfortable, you and Ted, doing it in February on your own, or would you still think you'd need?
I'm more
Kristen
concerned
or
with the
somebody.
time frame and WAMPO funding. That was my biggest concern.
So I'm thinking that possibly what we might be wise to do is just have that open meeting, bring Kristen in if she could be available, because she worked for WAMPO for a while, so she knows a lot of the insides there, and then see what the public engagement looks like, and see what they want to do and what they don't want to do, and then we can define it from there, because I think she would be invaluable, and obviously would be invaluable too in that input. So I think that's probably the way we should go. And that's kind of what I'm hearing. So, okay.
And just to help with public expectations at this point in the process, we can't really tell which side of the right of way it's going to be on, to Gary's concerns.
Yeah, we don't have any idea.
We don't have any design information. We have not gotten to that point. So really at this point, we're just drawing lines on a piece of paper. And this is kind of what our intents are. The specific design of the path, where it's going to be, how far from each edge of the right of way it's going to be, that's all going to come after this process has already gotten moved forward significantly. So for residents that are directly affected, I want to make sure that you guys are aware of kind of where we're at. If you're picking a house, if you're picking a lot to put a house on, we're just putting a block on that lot right now. We're not doing anything of how the house is shaped or how many bedrooms or anything like that. Just kind of trying to help set the
Right.
stage and manage expectations
One
a
thing
little
the
bit.
engineer did say at the workshop is that he was going to try to avoid removing trees, but obviously he hasn't looked at the details to say, can I do that? Can I not do that? He didn't know. So, but that's what his objective was. So, Mr. Neal, did you have something you wanted to say real quick?
I currently have one of my acre lots with a house and a shop on it for sale. And I think the person that's looking at it may back out because he's concerned about this being on his property, and he wanted on the dead end road where we live, and that's why he wanted to buy that property. So I got my fingers crossed that we make a decision pretty soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Can't promise those results, but okay. I appreciate the input. All right. Do we have enough information here to move forward? Okay. All right. Let's move on to council member reports. And I'm going to start with Ms. Hamburg because she is on video. Do you have anything that you would like to report?
Mr. Mayor, just real quickly, I attended the CCUA meeting on November 20th that you and council member David covered on December 2nd, reporting on. Sorry, let me pull my notes up here. It pretty much covered kind of my thoughts about some more engagement, not just about this path, but maybe some broader things in a council retreat and some more community feedback. And then took a tour last week before our workshop of the new Public Works building. Want to thank our city manager again to get those base grant dollars to be able to use for that. If you've seen the old Public Works building, they desperately needed a new one, and it's not something that most of us or any of us besides Public Works is going to go hang out in, but it allows them to do their job better and safer, and because of the facility and some of the features, they're going to be able to take better care of their equipment, and that will be better stewards of taxpayer dollars. And also, just wanted to say thank you to Derby again, just talking to Ted, and them graciously giving a tour of their relatively new Public Works building that I think really helped staff design ours better. And then just Merry Christmas to everyone next week on Thursday. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. McIntosh.
Just have a very brief report.
Very good.
I spoke to several citizens this past week. One of them had a question about the Firehouse Park tennis courts. The doors are locked, and when they have big buckets of balls and stuff, it's really hard to get them in there. Want to know why the doors are locked, and can we get them open? Maybe that's a question for Marty.
Well, Ted could probably get us an answer on that.
Writing a note right now. I'll get you an answer.
Good.
Also spoke to some people about the new facility and the fact that it's paid for, and just kind of raising awareness that that's not going to go on our water bill. And everybody was very happy about that.
Yes, that's very good. And we're glad we're able to do that. So great. Good.
That's all I have.
All right. Mr. Proctor.
Mr. Mayor, enjoyed very much the tour of our new facility that came from grant dollars that, as you said, it's already paid for. Really top-notch facility. It's more than a building. I mean, there's a yard and there's fueling station, there's storage, it's a very, very well thought out facility and structure, and it's going to serve our community for a long time. Very well built. One thing I did have an incidental thing that came up. I was talking to another chief of police, and I wanted to bring up that I don't think we have the flock system here. We're the only municipality in the area that has not engaged with that, and I'd like us to focus on probably bringing that back up, re-engaging with that, because right now we're kind of a black hole with the flock system for the area.
We could bring that up in a workshop. That would be fun.
Yeah, it'd be good.
Yeah.
But Merry Christmas to everybody next week, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. David.
Mr. Mayor, I also appreciate the facilities tour and attended CCUA, and we did really good this month as far as our effluent treatment, and also a Merry Christmas to everybody. Thank you.
Mr. Dean.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I have a few items. So on Tuesday, as everybody else has reported, I attended the tour of the Public Works facility before our council workshop. I wanted to thank staff, Ted specifically, and our owner's rep, architect, and our general contractor for the funding and also the successful completion of that project. And then also our Public Works Director, Marty. I think he was really proud of it. And I know him and his staff already do a great job serving our city, but hopefully this and other equipment we've invested in will make it easier for them to continue to serve our community even better. And then lastly, as you all know, the K254 Corridor Development Association, which Bel Aire is a part of and has been engaged throughout, the K254 Corridor Management Plan was completed and published earlier this year. I wanted to congratulate Garver. Their team was awarded for their work on the K254 Corridor Management Plan. They completed for KDOT. They received an Engineering Excellence Award last week from ACEC. So there's a huge press release on it last week, and wanted to congratulate them on those efforts. They did that for KDOT, and that plan will serve both KDOT, the K254 Corridor Association, and Bel Aire very well into the future. So I really appreciate Garver and their team on their efforts and congratulate them on that award.
It's very good news. I hadn't heard that. So great. That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I'll move on to the mayor's report. So the facility, as everybody has commented, is excellent. And we're really happy to get that open and get that moving. It won't get a lot of public face, but when you see our public works trucks out there fixing things and putting salt and sand on the roads and plowing the roads, you'll know that a lot of that is being facilitated because of that facility, because it helps them be much more efficient in that process. So it looks to be a great thing, and I'm really look forward to us getting moved in. So December 9th, I attended the WAMPO meeting. It was a monthly meeting, and there was a proposal on the table for a $200,000 spend for a regional active transportation plan consulting contract. And looking at the statement of work for this contract, it appeared that mostly a comprehensive plans for each community and combining them into one regional plan. So we questioned the $200,000 price tag, and WAMPO Director Chad Powers agreed that the staff could do this work with some additional personnel. So the proposed contract was voted down. And a report is available on WAMPO's website for the regional bike walk annual survey that was done this last fall. So if anybody is interested in that, please look at that survey. This was the first one where we used automated cameras for part of the survey, and there were some validation tests done of those cameras to make sure that they're getting accurate information. On December 10th, I attended the monthly Utility Advisory Committee meeting. Terry Ercolani was reelected as chair for the next year. Antonio Kitt was reelected as secretary, and Sean Brotta was elected as the vice chair. Sean Brotta did bring a few of the current water conservation plans and draft revision. He reviewed all that data, which is pretty impressive that he took that time, because he'd only been on the board, 1 week, and he did that. So he came to much of the same conclusions that the committee has already been working, which is good confirmation that it appears the right things were being addressed. So this led to a discussion about data and that is already available to water users in Bel Aire. Some water customers already use the online water portal, but there is the general consensus that this needs to be expanded. So we're looking at ways to get that word out on how to access this information for each water user, personal use of water. Some users are clearly conserving water. Others have opportunity to reduce their water usage. So of course, many have unique needs. So we're not saying that one size fits all, but having access to the data about your usage can highlight whether you need to improve on water conservation efforts. So more to come on that. Yesterday, I represented Bel Aire at the NIAR 40th celebration and ribbon cutting for their new $62 million hub for advanced manufacturing research, which is nicknamed HAMMER. I don't know how they came up with that, but anyway. So that's on the WSU Innovation Campus. It was attended by Secretary of Department of Transportation, Sean Duffy, as well as Senator Moran and Congressman Estes. This facility looks to put the Wichita region and Kansas at the forefront of manufacturing sector for the global economy. On January 10th of next year, Bel Aire is hosting the Sedgwick County Association of Cities, also known as SCAC, at Walton's from 8:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. A buffet breakfast is served at 8:30. It would be good to have as many Bel Aire City Council members who can attend this meeting to please do so. And of course, City Council members are always welcome to attend SCAC meetings. Again, the meeting is 8:30 to 11 on January 10th at Walton's on 53rd Street. And since this is our last planned meeting for 2025, I hope everyone has a blessed Christmas and a happy new year. And I will now ask our city attorney for her report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you all know, the city of Bel Aire has a municipal court. It is held downstairs in the community room on the first floor of this building. For the year of 2025, it was held the first and the third Thursday of every month. We also have multiple staff that help put that together. In the year 2026, it will be on the first and third Wednesday of the month. So there is a schedule change. That schedule change is to provide enough staff and to make sure that we are able to provide the contracted personnel, our public defender, our prosecutor, and our judge in order to handle all of the dockets that are necessary. Just keeping you all aware of that. And I appreciate all the help from our city manager, from our police department, and our municipal court staff to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Who on the city manager's report?
Nice, short and sweet tonight because I know we got a lot on the agenda. City offices will be closed Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. We'll be open from 8 to 1 on Friday, the 25th. So if anybody needs to utilize our services, but other than that, I'd say we move on. Thank you, Mr.
Great.
Mayor.
Thank you. I'm glad we're not trying to be closed 5 days in a row. So that's good. So let's move on to ordinance resolutions, final actions. Item A. So earlier in the meeting, a public hearing was held to allow citizens and other interested parties to speak on the 2025 budget amendment. And now that hearing has been closed, the city council may consider the budget amendment. So Finance Director Barry Smith is here to address any questions. Mr. Smith.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just as we explained last time about the budget amendment, nothing has changed since then. We're just basically capturing those increased expenditures and revenues in the general fund and land bank fund for the base grant, which built the new public works building. The increased street costs from the 2024 streets program running into 25, and the extra bridge replacement program we did this year out of the stormwater fund, and then a small correction to the water and sewer funds. That's a quick overview. I can go through the whole thing if you want me to, but it's nothing changed from the last time we explained it.
So any questions or concerns for Mr. Smith?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David.
a motion to adopt the City of Bel Aire 2025 budget amendment as presented and request all governing body members in attendance to sign the amended budget certificate for calendar year 2025.
Second.
Mr. Proctor, right? I
Yeah.
want to make sure I got the right one. Sometimes I don't hear it right. So I want to make sure.
Sorry.
No,
Mr.
no
Mayor.
worries. No worries. I just want to make sure. Okay. So I have a motion by Mr. David and a second by Mr. Proctor. Any other questions or discussion? If there are none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Next item is City Council approved an IRB agreement with Bel Aire Secure Storage LLC in 2022 to support the development of storage facility located on the west side of Webb Road, north of Tierra Verde. The project was divided into two phases. Phase 1, totaling $2.5 million, was completed in 2023. Phase 2, totaling $484,000, has now been completed and is ready for a bond issue. So Mr. Kevin Cowan with Gilmore and Bell, who is our bond counsel, is here to answer questions. Mr. Cowan.
I will also try to be brief. I know you've got a long night in front of you still. So good background. This is a continuation of a project that the city has already issued its industrial revenue bonds for. Second phase, fairly small. The importance of it is trying to get it done in this calendar year. So that phase the $483,000 second phase will be eligible for a property tax abatement starting next year, which is what the city offered as an incentive at the outset of the process. It will be eligible for the property tax abatement, but the city's also negotiated a payment in lieu of taxes. So while it's having its taxes abated technically for 10 years, it will pay 0% in a payment in lieu of taxes first year, but then that goes up 10% each year, so that you're going to receive a little bit of payment in lieu of taxes, not a 100% abatement or exemption, so to speak. That payment in lieu of taxes gets shared with the other taxing subdivisions, as is the case with other taxes. All of the documents, if you had a chance to look at those, are just supplemental. We have the main documents in place. There's a lease, site lease from the company to the city, and the city then has issued the bonds to make the improvements, and they lease everything back to the company. So we have a supplement to those, and then a supplemental bond agreement under which the bond details will be set forth. So I'll stop there. Last thing, I know we have a couple of new council members. Industrial revenue bonds, complete pass-through obligation of the city. By law, the city can only pledge revenue it receives from that facility, which is the lease payment to the payment of bonds, and can't pledge any general governmental revenues to the payment of the taxes. So not issued on the city's credit at all. If there was ever a default, it's not a negative with respect to the city's credit. It's truly just the credit of the company. So if the new council members didn't already know that, these are, we like to call them conduits. The city can serve as the bond issuer, and that makes the project eligible for some of these incentives that have been offered. So I will stop there.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns?
Thank you for that clarification. I was going to ask the question, is there any chance the city could become liable for
No,
these bonds?
and you'll probably have more opportunities to talk about these things. This is the third one the city will issue this year, and I'm sure there'll be others in the future. And I know, again, long meeting tonight, but we'll have an opportunity to talk more about it.
It's pretty rare anybody ever defaults on these, but when they have, the municipalities have never had to pay the money.
Right.
Right.
And I mean, a long time ago, those things have been litigated. Even, a city gets brought into the lawsuit in an event of default and simply, tells the judge, look, we're a pass-through. We haven't pledged anything other than what we've received. And so they, even in those cases, they get themselves removed from the lawsuit and those proceedings pretty quickly. That won't happen. And those are publicly offered bonds. That's rare these days, where an industrial revenue bond would be sold to a lot of investors. They're usually direct placements to a single bondholder. So that's an improvement.
Good to know. Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David.
a motion to adopt an ordinance authorizing the city of Bel Aire, Kansas to issue its taxable industrial revenue bonds, Series 2024-5C, Bel Aire Secure Storage LLC Phase 2, for the purpose of the acquisition, construction, and equipping of a storage facility, and authorizing other related documents and actions, and authorize all required signatures.
Second.
I'll second.
I'm going to give Emily that option on that one because of the time delay. So, but thank
There's
you.
delay.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a motion by Mr. David and a second by Ms. Hamburg. Any other questions or discussion? If there are none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. I'd like to now move on to item 13, which is executive session, and we're going to require a 1 hour for this session. It has been requested to be longer, but we're going to try 1 hour, and if we have to extend, we can do that. So moving to item 13 on your, I marked it as 13, is that right? Yeah, on your schedule, 13A. So I'll entertain a motion. Yeah, we're skipping those for now because we talked about that in earlier when we talked about agenda changes. So that's why we're moving to item 13.
Yeah, just
Mr.
to
Mayor.
confirm, are we ready for this now?
Yes.
I'm not I guess I'm not
They're-
seeing.
they're already-
Okay. All right. I just wanted to
Everybody's
double
here
check.
waiting. They're here waiting.
All right, go for it,
Yeah.
Mike. Looks like you were about better up.
Either one of you, whoever.
All right. Okay. I got this.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to recess into executive session to discuss the legal counsel and receive legal advice related to pending litigation. The discussion will be pursuant to KSA 75-4319 B2 for a legal consultation with Neil Gosh, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. Invite Neil Gosh, Catherine Schlemsky, city manager, city attorney, and city engineer. The meeting will be for a period of 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And the open meeting will resume in city council chambers at 9:10. 9:10. We'll go for 9:10.
Good.
Great.
Second.
PM.
A motion by Mr. Proctor, a second by Mr. Dean. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Executive session for 1 hour, and we will meet in the back room. So just leave your stuff here and go from back. Hey, I'm going to call the meeting back to order. We held an executive session. No binding action was taken. We're ready to move on to item 7C. This is a resolution updating the fee schedule. So near the end of each fiscal year, Bel Aire City Council reviews and approves updates to the city's fee schedule. Municipalities have authority to establish fees for services they provide, and a fee schedule outline the various set fees. City staff has recently reviewed the schedule and provided their updates. Some of the updates reflect city policies such as 3% annual sewer and water fees increases. If other changes become necessary during the coming year, the schedule can be revised or amended, and staff is available to answer questions. So a couple of issues here that just to understand. So concerning the 3% annual sewer and water fees, I've asked Ted Henry and Barry Smith to prepare a pro forma analysis of these funds to ensure that reserves are appropriate. That should be completed by February in time for our 2027 budget process. This way we can know going into the budget process if we should make any changes to this annual increase. I anticipate if changes are needed, they will be reduced in the increases for 2027. But then that is what the pro forma will tell us. We won't know until we do that analysis. So I've asked them to do that. And the reason that I did that at this time, because we've completed the bonding for the sewer expansion project, the 20 million bonding. So we know what those payments are going to be like. So we've got our cost of service agreements in place. That's still a little bit unknown how that's going to look, but we're getting firmer as to what that will look like. So by that budget process of next year, we will have a better idea of what that's going to
Mr. Mayor,
okay.
I'd also add that Wichita has just passed a 7% increase. So obviously that will play a factor in our pro forma. So that as well, that's another item.
Right.
And I might add the drought restrictions complicate things a little bit as well. So
They do.
I think 2027 would be a great year to look at it with everything the mayor stated.
A lot of complexities there.
A lot of complexities. And
Yeah. So the other issue is regarding traffic and court fees, fines. The 2027 legislature slipped through an unfunded mandate that changes what we have to document to make these charges. So for the most part, these will be de minimis charges, but instead of having a flat fee, we have to have staff go through an exercise to document the fees. Our city attorney is working to develop a process for this. One part of me says this should be just charges the fees, but that was just not charge the fees. But what we found in the world of medical records, when we started record requests decreased by some 90% when we started charging fees. So a lot of frivolous record requests that just shouldn't have been out there, and the fees stopped a lot of that. And I think this is the same way. You're going to do a Cora request, and if you say, oh, I got to spend $100 for a Cora request, do I really need this information? Do I really want this information? So they're going to give that some thought. If you don't have a fee, it looks like it's free to them. So anyway, that's just so in order to minimize those requests and that are frivolous, we need to have a process for charging these fees. So and I'll let our city attorney elaborate on that if she'd like to, and tell us what she can.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the 2025 fee schedule, there are multiple references to flat fees for court records, flat fees for police records. The same goes for black and white copies, color copies, and an even flat fee of $20 per hour for an individual, for a staff person to locate, retrieve information and provide it. And it's all related to Open Records Act requests. In July of 2025, the Kansas legislature updated the Kansas Open Records Act, saying that those fees are no longer permissible. In fact, quote unquote, per the Attorney General, public agencies are not permitted to collect per page fees for electronic and paper copies. Consequently, those fees have been removed from the fee schedule that is proposed to you tonight for 2026. So please know that those those services will not be provided for free, but instead, with the new updates that have been made to the legislation, the phrase is the city will ask for the actual cost incurred. Actual cost is what it is based upon now. So when staff receive that open record request, staff may charge the cost of staff time to review and redact the requested records and any costs for computer services, but we must use the lowest cost category of staff reasonably necessary to provide access to or to furnish copies of those records. As a result, flat fees are no longer appropriate as they do not reflect the quote unquote actual costs incurred in responding to those specific core requests. We are to provide itemized statements of all the costs that are incurred that we charge to the requester. The requester may request an itemized statement, and we will include those hourly rates that were charged for each employee involved in making the requested records available, and an itemized list of any other fees charged to provide access or furnish those copies. So please know that is one difference that was made, and it's noted on Section 5, General Fees on the staff report. If you have questions about that, I'm more than happy to answer.
So just a curiosity are we now set up to actually do this analysis and pull this data so that if somebody comes in with core requests today, we can actually set up these fees appropriately?
Today, if an individual makes a request for open records, staff is working together to make sure that whatever rate we do request, it is based on the actual cost involved. We are asking staff, how much time did you spend in gathering those reports? How much time did you spend in redacting? And then we are providing that itemized information to the requester.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. McIntosh.
will a requester be able to have at least an estimation of what they will pay before making their request official?
Thank you, Councilmember McIntosh. Yes, we do provide that estimate. Perhaps the requester does not want to proceed because of that estimate. In fact, we even have a duty to try to communicate with the requester. Maybe we need to understand more fully what they're looking for. Maybe there is a way that we can provide those records at a lower cost. Sometimes if they don't use that specific phrase, but they explain more of what they're looking for, we can provide something else and it would be cheaper for them, because the spirit of the law is to be as transparent as possible with the records we can provide.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
that was going to be my question, because a lot of the info that maybe a Cora request would be requesting, we could just direct them to the website, to the packet, and a lot of the info is there. It's just a matter of educating them on how to get it. So does staff just to clarify, does staff do that free of charge now?
You are exactly correct, Councilmember Dean. There was a requester that was requesting specific documents and was willing to pay for them, but they were available on our website under our agendas for free. Our staff member took the time to explain to requester where to look, how to look, where they were located, and that requester did not need to pay the city of Bel Aire any money.
Good. Very good. All right. So any other questions or discussion? I didn't mean to hijack this into a discussion about those Cora fees so much, but I think we just need to understand what happened here, because this is something that changed and I wasn't aware of it. And I don't know if anybody else was aware of it that happened until we got the Attorney General's opinion. So
Thank you, Maria, for helping us in that
Yeah.
category.
I'd like to just make one comment. I'm
certainly.
happy to see that we are lowering our fees by $25 state fee. We're passing that savings on to our citizens, and not just retaining extra income.
Yeah, that's always a good thing to do. But I think that was is that on the cereal malt thing, or what was that? The one particular one you're talking about? 'Cause I don't
Yes,
have that
I'm
particular-
looking
yeah.
at the section 1 cereal malt
Right.
fees.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's They're apparently collecting that directly to the state now. So that's a change that the state's been doing. But that's, yeah, you're right. That's a good thing that we're not doing that. Any other questions or discussions on the fee schedule? If there isn't, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. McIntosh.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution updating the fee schedule for 2026 as presented and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll offer a second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Proctor. I have a motion by Mr. McIntosh and a second by Mr. Proctor. Any other questions or discussion? If there are none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item D is a real estate purchase kind of agreement. So there's a vacant lot here on 37th and Harding. It's been vacant forever. So this is where our sanitary sewer lift station is at 37th and Harding. This is the city's primary lift station that serves the majority of the community. Because of its importance, it is critical that this facility remain fully operational. And during a review of the easements on this lot and existing sanitary sewer mains serving the lift station, staff determined that additional space is needed. And the vacant lot recently became available for purchase. So through a series of negotiations, a contract for purchase is now before the governing body. And for later discussion, it may be appropriate to just make this, this is for later discussion, but it may be appropriate if we successfully purchase this lot that we talk about doing a pocket park or something like that with some grass and maybe just some park benches, but no other amenities. But there's no real reason to have that discussion until we actually own the land. So Ms. City Manager is here available to answer questions. So one word of caution, and if you are aware of this, then that's great. In these real estate contracts, if we want to talk about the details of the contract or want to talk about renegotiating the contract, we should go to an executive session to do that. Otherwise, we can approve this contract here, but we shouldn't talk about negotiation of details in an open meeting. Okay. So, but that's entirely your call, if you want to call for an executive session.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Dean.
I can start off the discussion on this item. So, Ann and our city manager brought this to our attention. There's a huge write-up there, but essentially there's, just to summarize, there's a potential need to access that easement to add potentially infrastructure to our existing pump station or lift station. And there was a lot of concern of the access and the construction to do that. This lot is relatively small. And in addition to that, just not knowing what could be built there, right? If we don't own this, we can control that to an extent, right? Because it has to go through the zoning process and all that. But I really appreciated the proactiveness, that it's probably the right word to use, of our staff in identifying this as a potential concern of ours and a risk that we could mitigate. And, feel like that's the right decision and that we've went through a process. And so I'm kicking it off. I just want to hear what the rest of the council thinks, but I'm generally in favor of it for those reasons, for having control of the land and having the ability to maintain and expand our infrastructure if needed.
Any other questions or discussions?
In
Mr. McIntosh.
In the packet, there are several green areas. Are those current easements or recommended easements should we not purchase this property?
And you might,
There's a couple different.
they're current easements, and
Okay.
they're not exactly, I guess.
On page 110.
Some of it's sewer lines, some of it's easement lines.
Yep.
Right.
Fill us in on the details.
So yes, those green, kind of yellowy green areas, those are current easements that we have on the property. There's a 30-foot easement on the north side and a 30-foot easement on the west side. And then there's kind of a trapezoidal easement on the south that's mainly for drainage.
So is it correct to say that basically the only buildable area of this is the non-yellow green
Correct.
section, which made it really difficult to make this a usable lot for a lot of purposes?
Yes, and kind of to tack on to what the mayor said, it is our concern that if somebody would build on this lot, but as the mayor said, the buildable area is, I mean, they can go right up to the edge of that yellow line. So if somebody would put a concrete privacy fence or a building, it would be very difficult for us to get in there and maintain those lines. Those are very deep. Or if we ever need to add some sort of screening equipment or additional equipment for that lift station, that's going to make it very difficult. And the property owners, any future tenants or residents are really not going to be very happy if anything needs to be done in the future.
And if you wouldn't mind discussing a little bit, we always say it's a very important lift station. How important is this lift station to Bel Aire?
This lift station serves probably 75% of Bel Aire. It's all of the old Bel Aire. The Rock Road lift station also the Rock Road goes to 53rd, but it's Catholic Care comes in here. Isley comes in here. All of the old Bel Aire, the Pearsons neighborhood, basically anything that hasn't been developed within the past 10 to 15 years goes to this lift station.
And just to clarify, so the shaded yellow kind of area is the easement. The dark green lines with arrows is actually identifying the existing sanitary sewer.
That is correct.
And so, I mean, just looking at the west line, that sewer runs due south. You're really close to the east side of that easement the way it is.
Yes.
So we may have needed more easement on that line alone just to get access to it, it looks like to me.
Yes.
At least a temporary construction easement. So,
And
anyway.
the dashed line is the force main. So that is the pressurized sanitary sewer main.
And I don't disagree. I'll just make a statement. I know Mayor added it and we're not going to have a full discussion on it, but I don't disagree with finding some beneficial use of this property. But that's a different discussion for later. I don't disagree with that idea though. I think that would be worthwhile sometime in the future.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg.
this may be dancing on your caution about executive session. And are you comfortable commenting on the inputs, or would you rather not in an open meeting from the inputs from the seller's prior offer?
I have not
Yeah.
been involved in those discussions.
I think that you probably is an appropriate executive session discussion. Mostly because you don't want to be exposing what people said or didn't say in an open meeting on a negotiation. That's just not fair. I mean, if I were one of those parties, I wouldn't want that exposing in an open meeting. Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna be supporting this just based on our infrastructure needs, and if we can maybe turn it into a pocket park or something like that, that's great. But we need this to be able to maintain that lift station properly, as far as I can tell. So I'm going to be supporting this. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David.
a motion to approve the real estate purchase agreement by and between Premier Holdings LLC for real property described as 3807 North Harding Avenue, Bel Aire, Kansas, 67220, and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. David, a second by Mr. Dean. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Move on to item E. This is declaring legal boundaries of the city of Bel Aire. So state law requires that cities adopt a resolution declaring the official boundary of the city's incorporated area before the last day in December in any year in which any territory has been added to or excluded from the city. And the city hired PEC to update the boundary to include the annexations that occurred in the current year. So the boundary resolution is now ready to adopt and file with the county. Mr. Henry, can you elaborate what we annexed here real quick so that anybody that's not familiar with this can see that?
So if you go along Greenwich, near 254, on the, I guess the
On north?
northeast side, there's 140 acres. That's what we, thank you, Ann. Right here.
Yes.
Okay. And I think Ann will explain the rest. The other side of this is in a lot of the red or the adjustments you'll see is we contracted with PEC to clean up all our boundaries, not just that particular area.
Right.
There was several locations. Basically what they did is they went and traced the boundary out to see what areas were included and not included. The kind of one of the interesting ones was at the corner of 37th and Oliver. We had a stretch that shot way out to the west and then came back. It was a very sharp triangle area. And they're like, this does not look right. So they took the city of Wichita's boundary resolution and married it up with ours. So we now we are in agreement, our boundaries match. So they have one side line, we have the other. And there was another one that the boundary, I don't remember which street it was, but the description went to the south and then went back up to the north and went back to the south on the same exact line. So they're going through and they're correcting that. There was a couple areas on 53rd Street that were just not correct. Went through and looked at some old boundary resolutions, looked at the county website and some old annexations, and we got all those corrected too.
Good. Thank you. Any questions or discussions on this issue? There is none, and I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. McIntosh.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution declaring the legal boundaries of the city and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. McIntosh, a second by Mr. David. Any additional questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item F, which was our late add issue. Let me get back to the right thing file. Okay, so item F, late add to the agenda, is a proposed change order for Bel Aire Lakes Edition. And this change order is supported by special assessments. We're cautioned don't worry about that. That's a mistake on my part. So City Engineer, Ms. Stevens, is here to discuss this issue.
So in October of this year, I received a call from Pearson Construction. They were installing the reinforced box culvert at the entrance to the Bel Aire Lake subdivision. So this would be just off of Webb Road. They dug down to the bottom of the box. They dug even further down to put the aggregate base that was planned for, and the box started sinking. So they dug down another foot, put more aggregate in, and the box continued to sink. So then they took a probe rod, which is a 4-foot wide, maybe 3/4 or half inch thick rod, sunk that down, and they could not find any solid footing. After experiences on another current project, I said, wait a minute, we're not letting this go any further. I got some geotechnical assistance from PEC, and I said, hey, we've got this situation going on. We need to know what we need to do. So PEC came out in October and performed several borings. We got a report in November, early November, saying, I think their initial design was to dig down 7 feet from the already bottom of the box, which is 5-6 feet down from the top of the ground surface, and build it back up with 7 feet of rock so we could have a stable surface. After meeting with the design engineer the construction engineer, the contractor, and myself, the design engineer's like, wait a minute, is there something else we can do? And then the contractor, Pearson, said, oh, and by the way, you have a 16-inch water main over here that if we dig down 7 feet, we're going to be exposing as we bench out the excavation for safety purposes. That's not a good idea. So PEC went back and took another look, and we now have a thinner section. It's about 3 feet deep. We're going to put a geogrid down and then a foot of rock, a geogrid, a foot of rock, a geogrid, and a foot of rock. So basically making a sandwich. And geotechnical engineers always err on the side of caution, which I would prefer because I don't want this sinking in the future. So anyway, that's what's before you. It's been a while coming. It's been early October since this whole thing kicked off. I just got everything yesterday, so we're kind of kicking everything off to make sure we got it to you on time for today's meeting. We really didn't want to wait until January for this to get going. Pearson has continued to work on the project. They have gotten as many of the streets in that they can, but they're getting to a point that they're running out of work to do. So they need to get this box taken care of, the subgrade modified and stabilized so they can put the box on the dirt and the pavement and get the rest of the project done. So in a nutshell, that's what's before you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to stand for them.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Dean.
And it sounds like this is very isolated from your experience. They haven't, as other contractors or Pearson has done any excavation with the rest of the project, they haven't encountered anything similar. It's isolated to this specific location and depth.
That is correct. There is this is through a wetland area. The council members may have remembered that we entered into an agreement with Sunflower Land Trust to offset the wetland in this area. We also have a lift station that is not too far away to the north. And when that box was installed over the entrance, we didn't have any of these problems. We did find that there was a leaking rural water main. The rural water did come out and fix that, but in my engineering judgment, I don't want to assume that that's the cause of all of this. And I would not imagine that you can sink a 4-foot probe rod and basically not your 5-ish feet down from the surface for the box. And then they went another 2, and then they went another 4. And I don't think all of that soft soil is due to a leaking water main. So I want to make sure that in my lifetime, I never have to worry about this entrance again. The residents that will eventually inhabit this subdivision, I don't want them to have to worry about the entrance collapsing or sinking. So it's my preference that this gets taken care of.
I appreciate you everybody on the project slowing down and thinking through it. And it sounds like you've come to a workable solution. So I appreciate you guys working on it.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. McIntosh.
and I just have a question. What is geotextile or geogrid?
So there's multiple types of geogrid or geotextiles, and I cannot remember exactly what was specified out in this one, but geogrid it's a very thin plastic that is in squares, and it's just an underlaying grid that goes down. It's not even 1/8 of an inch thick. It just provides an extra layer of stabilization.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
I'll move to approve a change order number 1 for the street and drainage improvements to serve Phase 1 Bel Aire Lakes in the amount of $28,782, not to exceed, I guess I should have said that first, with an additional 5 working days.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Dean, a second by Mr. David. Any other questions or discussion? There are none. We'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
That motion passes 5-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr.
I'd just like to recognize
Henry.
our city attorney. Very fast turnaround on that. I really appreciate it. I hate sending those emails to you, but thank you.
Yeah. It came out like 11 o'clock today or something like that. I can't remember what time it was. Like we saw that. So, oh, it's not fun to have those last minute ones, but it did happen sometimes. And it is going to be 3 weeks before we meet again. So I do hope everybody enjoys their break and has a Merry Christmas. Our next item on the agenda is adjournment, unless somebody has some issue they just got to talk about.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
Merry Christmas to everybody, and I'll motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, Merry Christmas second in the motion to adjourn.
You're second the Merry Christmas or the
I like
adjournment?
it.
Both of them.
And the
Okay.
adjournment, yeah.
Very good.
Double motion. double-
All right. I have a motion by Mr. Dean and a second by Mr. Proctor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Too bad. We're going home. Motion passes 5-0. Have a great Christmas and Happy New Year.